So did the UK betray Brexit? Because that's what some people in the UK are saying after the UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer made a deal with the EU. And this deal had major changes, things that would affect people living in the UK, people living in Europe, deals that would definitely change the UK's relationship with Europe in the coming years. So today, together with the UK,
Yes, I'm in this video.
and the EU,
I like being here when it's good news.
we will be explaining this deal. It is a deal that Keir Starmer said it's a win-win situation. It's also a deal that some people called a sellout. And today we'll see what politicians said about it, but also what some regular people like students, farmers, and fishermen think about it. And we will be explaining exactly what is in this deal, how this deal matters so much, and how it could affect so many people's lives. And after watching the video, I need to know something from the comments. I want to know who got the short end of the stick from those deals. So anyways, let's go back to 2020.
Wait, the pandemic?
Yeah, but also it's when the UK officially left the EU. So the UK did Brexit to take back control from the EU, but the issues that the UK faced after Brexit weren't really pretty. For example, farmers in the UK used to send their products easily to the EU, which meant a lot of people were buying those farmers' products. Not just the people in the UK, but a lot of people in Europe. But after Brexit, those farmers had to do so much paperwork and so much checks to send their food to Europe. And because of that, the UK's exports to Europe dropped a lot. But sending food wasn't the only issue, because sending people was also hectic. So after leaving the EU, people with a UK passport had to wait in some crazy lines. And if you had a pet or you wanted that pet to travel with you, forget about it, because it was a lot harder. And even students got affected, because the UK had a program called Erasmus, which basically would exchange students. So UK students would go to a country in Europe to study. Let's say, for example, that country is Spain, and then a Spanish student would come to the UK to study.
But after we got removed from that program, it got a lot harder for our students to go and travel and study elsewhere.
But boy, did fishermen have it badly, because fishermen were very excited for Brexit to happen, because they used to share their waters with other countries in Europe. So for example, French fishermen would just fish where British fishermen were fishing. So after Brexit, those waters were supposed to be only for the British, right?
Wrong.
Yeah, because there was a deal between the EU and the UK that the EU boats would be still able to fish in British water until 2026. And after 2026, fishermen were hoping that they would get the water all to themselves without sharing it with other countries. But is that gonna happen? We'll see soon. But also, when it comes to the security of the UK, there was also a huge issue, because the UK now didn't have the same EU security framework that they had before. So because of that, a lot of things became less automatic. And with crimes increasing generally, the UK was left out of the EU's defense discussions.
Yeah, man, I was lonely. And whose fault is that?
But at least people voted for Brexit, right? Well, in 2024, they had a poll that showed that so many people were not happy with Brexit. And a majority of the people wished that it never even happened. And that's where Keir Starmer comes. So in 2024, Keir Starmer becomes the Prime Minister of the UK, and he promised to make Brexit better.
He said we're not joining the EU, but he will fix some holes in the deal.
But thing is, he didn't even have enough time, because 2025 was the year the original trade clause with the EU and the UK was gonna get reviewed. And there were also some issues, obviously, with Ukraine and Russia. And there were also the issues coming from Trump and all the unpredictable factors that come with him. So Keir Starmer had to act quick.
That's where our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, sat down to make a deal.
Now let's see what the deal was. So one of the biggest changes that was happening because of that deal was trade and food exports. Now finally the UK could sell its food in the EU without all the paperwork and all the checks that were needed. So now basically the UK has to follow the EU's food standards, and even if the EU wants to change their food standards in the future, the UK will have to follow them and change it as well.
You will do what I want you to do, UK. You know what? It's still worth it. This would help our economy by like 9 billion.
And the economy is not the only thing that's going to change, because of that deal, foods in supermarkets are now supposed to be cheaper after this deal. So a lot of people were happy about this. But people doing grocery shopping weren't the only people who were happy, because students were too, because now it became possible for students to go again to different countries and study, because the UK now made a deal with the EU to join with Erasmus. Again, remember Erasmus, which I told you about before? Yeah, the UK is joining, and now they can do the exchange program again. But even travel now will become a lot easier from the UK to the EU, because now UK passport holders can just go to the e-gates, which will make it a lot quicker and easier at airports. Like before, they had to wait in crazy lines. So yeah, they don't have to do that anymore. Whew. Anyways, they also agreed on an energy deal, which is also huge. So when factories make stuff like cars or steel, they often release carbon dioxide into the air. And too much carbon dioxide causes climate change, which means our planet gets hotter, ice melts, the seas rise, and the weather gets really weird. And to stop that, the EU came up with an idea.
We said that if other countries want to sell to us, they have to care about the planet. And if they do not, then we'll charge them a special tax.
This tax is called the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So basically, if you're in a country that pollutes a lot and you want to sell to Europe, you have to pay a lot more. But now with the UK's deal, the UK and EU will match each other's climate rules. And by doing that, the UK companies won't have to pay extra border taxes when they sell stuff to the EU. So now the UK companies are happy, and the UK even promised to have similar climate goals as the EU. So if the EU says, for example, let's cut pollution even more by 2030, the UK must do the same. But because of this deal, the UK businesses will save up to 800 million pounds. The UK will even rejoin the EU's electricity trading network. This means that if the UK has extra electricity from wind or solar, it could sell it to countries in Europe. Even though businesses are going to save so much money, this deal got a lot of people angry. For example, Richard Tice, the leader of a political group called the Reform Party, said that this deal is a catastrophic surrender. So basically, he's mad that the UK has to follow the EU's rules again, even though the UK is not in the EU anymore. There's also another guy, Andrew Bowie, who also said, can't change our carbon rules on our own anymore. That's not fair. So yeah, that's what he said. And basically, they believe that the UK is losing control and that they have to follow the EU's rules. So yeah, tell me if that's what you also think. Before that, there's also a huge new defense partnership between the UK and the EU. And it's basically a defense pact. It's like saying, let's protect our neighborhoods together. I'll help you and you'll help me. So yeah, the first step is that the UK is going to be joining Europe's big defense project. And now the EU also has a piggy bank. It's like a fund that they put money into to help in defense, and it has around 150 billion euros. And the UK agreed that it will be putting money into that piggy bank as well. But what is the UK getting out of this deal? Well, British defense companies, basically the companies that make planes, ships, and tools for the army, can win contracts to help build huge things like warships, fighter jets, and cyber defense systems in the EU. Also, the EU and UK said that this will help support Ukraine better as they're still fighting against Russia's invasion. And also, the UK made a huge deal with the EU to share crime fighting tools again. So before Brexit, the UK was a part of the EU's police systems, like a shared computer full of information on bad guys and all the criminals. But after leaving the EU, the UK lost access to all of those systems. But now the UK is back, and the UK will get all that information like fingerprints, facial recognition, criminals' data, and even information on illegal immigrants. And by getting all of that, this information will help the UK catch criminals who escape to other countries, and they also would be working faster with the EU to stop people like smuggling basically any illegal stuff. But again, some people are not happy, and they said that the UK should have full control over their army and rules.
They also say that the UK does not need the EU because the UK has NATO.
But one of the deals that got a lot of people mad was the fishing deal. So remember how the British waters were supposed to go back to only having British fishermen in 2026? Well, the UK made a new deal with the EU, and now they're extending it until 2038. So yeah, a lot of fishermen feel betrayed, but Keir Starmer said that because of this deal, the fishermen now can sell their fish easily in the EU, which means more money for them. And Keir Starmer also said that the UK will be giving £360 million to fishing towns in order to support them.
So this money will go to coastal communities to help with jobs, equipment, and help with the fishing business.
So yeah, that was the deal.
Well, Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, is very happy about it. And also Ursula von der Leyen is very happy about it as well. But people like Kemi Benedok, who is the Conservative leader, and Nigel Farage, who is the leader of the Reform Party, are not happy at all.
But at least from this deal, Europe and the UK are getting closer together, and some of those deals were really good.
Also, you know how we asked which one of us had the better deal?
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that. People will just fight. Well, that's nice of you, and that's true. And it's obvious I got the better deal.